Wolves 2, Chelsea 5. The last two games I've seen, just out of interest, I've seen 18 goals that I watched Aberystwyth lose 10-1 against TNS. So I'm averaging 9 goals per game over the last two games, which has been very, very exciting. But Wolves are absolutely abysmal again today. Really, really poor. And I don't know, we keep on saying it about the defence of the last couple of weeks. They're just ordinary. And Nuno made a bold selection today in terms of dropping Ryan Bennett and bringing Vallejo in, because the left side of the back three was covered by Sace. But Jesus, or whatever we're going to call him, Jesus, was absolutely shocking. It was the worst individual defensive performance that I've seen at Molyneux for a long time. He just looked completely out of his depth. He looked afraid. He looked like he couldn't header a ball. He looked slow. He was losing his man all the time. I just couldn't believe, how organised we've seen our defence over the last 2 years under Nuno. To watch that was appalling. It was really, really embarrassing almost. And I've been critical of the defence, and I've been critical of Cozy and Nuno in his reluctance to change the back three. I think it has to change. I think we have to find a different way of playing, because we've been sussed out, and I know it's a little bit, easy to say that because we've had a poorer start to the season than we did last year. However, if you analyse the games that we've played and the opposition that we've come up against, I don't think we've, apart from the Burnley game, that's the only game that you would say nailed on that we should be winning. Today, the result, I think, is a bit harsher than possibly it could have been, because Chelsea were just very, very clinical with the chances that they had, and Tammy Abraham had 3 shots on target and scored 3 goals. We gifted them a lot of space in the penalty area. We thought we'd given away a penalty, I think, for the second goal, and that sort of switched off, and then they managed to tap it in. The third goal, we just gave them so much space at the back post, and Tammy Abraham could pick where he wanted to put the ball. And then the first goal was at the time, I thought it was a bit of a fluke. I thought it was a bit of a sort of whipped ball into the back post, but having looked at it again, he's never going to score a goal like that in his life, and that's what's really, really frustrating for us. But I don't know, it's been mentioned just now by a couple of people on WM ringing up saying that they just seem to have had the stuffing knocked out of them when that first goal went in. They didn't seem to be able to pick themselves up. I'm just really disappointed with what I'm seeing in the Premier League from Wolves at the moment. They seem to lack ideas. Jimenez, to me, doesn't look like a player the same player that we saw last year. Catrone seems more like Jimenez last year than Jimenez does. He looks more eager. He's sprinting to the ball. He's closing people down. I think I would be tempted to play Catrone instead of Jimenez at Crystal Palace next week. But you can't blame the Europa League for this fixture, because we've had a week to prepare. Yes, some players have been out all over the world and what have you, but generally, I would expect us to be more organised and more disciplined. We were in the first 20 minutes. The first 20 minutes were so dull that I couldn't. If somebody had told me I'd see 7 goals in that game, I would have laughed my head off. It was a very, very timid start to the game, but it's just a lack of organisation. That's what's disappointing, really. But I'm sure that we'll go and beat Braga now, probably very, very comfortably, and then we need to get the season started in the Premier League. Otherwise, it's going to be completely different. However, without all of that being said, if we can just improve the results against the teams that we should be beating. So if you look at last season, Watford at home, lost that game. We've got that coming up in a couple of weeks' time. If we win that, then that's a plus on last season. The games against the top 6, which has been our fixture so far, pretty much, apart from Leicester perhaps, they're fixtures that you can sort of justify dropping points on. So it's difficult to deal with, but I'm sure we'll move on. And yeah, just looking at the fixtures here, we've got City away in a couple of weeks, although they are currently losing to Norwich. So there's very, very little to actually be positive about today, because the subs didn't really make a difference. I thought Gibbs White looked bright, but didn't really make anything happen. I don't think he changed a lot. Doherty for Traore. It was a strange one because Traore was playing relatively well. I think he went on a couple of runs that sort of affected the play. But Doherty sort of contributed in a way as well by scoring by assisting the Catrone's goal. Catrone scoring as well, that's something that he can tick off and maybe move on from, but I don't think it was causing him too much grief. I don't know, it's very, very difficult to pick the bones out of such a poor performance. There's stories as well today about Fosun wanting to sell 20% of the club to look for investment elsewhere. I don't know whether there's a lot of things happening that are different and that's changing, and we're so used to now over the last 2 years consistent success and building up and getting better and better and better, and now maybe a few things are going awry off the pitch, and maybe I know that somebody tweeted about me saying about Nuno's position becoming under scrutiny, but of course it will. If we're in the bottom three come Christmas or something like that, then he's going to be criticised and his job will be under threat. However, I don't think it will be, and it's often when Nuno's back is against the wall, and look back to last November, December time, we managed to pull something out of the hat and go on a really good run for the rest of the season. So I'm not concerned still, although the defence is there's a cause for concern in that we need to make sure that we improve, and I would be tempted to take Cody out, to play Dendoncker or Neves in that role because they're playing so deep anyway. Play Gibbs White in midfield, have a bit more forward threat, and I don't know, this philosophy and the stubbornness that Nuno goes on about with this has to change, because we had got ourselves back into the game at 4-2 and still was just passing gently back and forth, and then without any urgency, whereas a team 10, 15 years ago would have been throwing players forward, bombing forward, and if we'd lost 5-2 doing that, then you could have sort of, hold your hands up and agree with it a little bit. But it was disappointing the way that we went about our business. But that's the first defeat since January, the second against Crystal Palace. So a long, long run. But we need to pick ourselves up and we need to get back on the horse and picking up points very, very quickly. Otherwise, it's going to be a long, hard season. But I could see us going on and winning the Europa League or something. But anyway, it's been a difficult one today. I hope that you've enjoyed, but it's been rubbish. I think this has been the worst match review that I've done. Let me know in the comments down below if you agree. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon, maybe.